Good morning. This is retired Pastor Karl Schmidt from Calvary Lutheran Church, Little Lutheran Church in Amherst, New York, on this first Sunday in Lent, March 9th of 2025. The text assigned is from Matthew chapter 4, verses 1 through 11. This is the familiar account of Jesus and Satan having a conversation, basically, if you could call it that. Then was Jesus lifted up by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil, or Satan. And when he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, he was afterward hungry. And when the tempter came to him, he said, "If you are the Son of God, command that these stones be made bread." But he answered and said, "It's written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God." Then Satan took him up into the holy city and set him on a pinnacle of the temple, and said to him, "If you are the Son of God, throw yourself down, for it is written, He shall give his angels charge concerning thee, and in their hands they shall bear you up, lest any time you cut your foot against a stone." Jesus said to him, "It is written again, you shall not tempt the Lord your God." Again Satan took him up into an exceedingly high mountain, and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and the glory of them, and said to him, "All these things I will give to you, if you will fall down and worship me." Then said Jesus to him, "Get out of here, Satan. For it is written, you shall worship the Lord your God, and him only shall you serve." Then Satan left, and behold, angels came and ministered to Jesus. Here is that portion of the gospel text. Now, a lot of people assume that the word Satan is a personal name for this being. I'm going to call him being. Some people would say angel, who knows what. We really don't know what. He's not an early character in the Bible. The first time his name even appears in the Hebrew Old Testament as Satan is in regard to King David. And so it's interesting that he went after the king, not the people. And there he influenced, use that word. Some people would like today to say possess, but not really. Influenced David, his mind, to count God's people. Even though God had said, "I know my people. I made them, each one of them. They're mine. I don't need you to count them for me." Especially the Levites. They're my servants in the temple and in the Mishkans, the tents. Temple wasn't built yet. And but they're my servants. You definitely are not allowed to count them. But don't count anyone. Because David wanted to do a tax, So David ordered his generals to count. And they said, "Are you insane? Have you gone mad? You heard what the boss said." "No, no, no." And David said, "Yes, yes, yes." Because his mind was being altered by Satan. And long and short, didn't end well. As things don't usually end well anytime Satan's involved. But the term Satan in the Hebrew is not a personal name at all. It's not a description of what he is. It doesn't tell us if he's an angel or what kind of being at all. We don't know. We know a couple of things. That he, in the book of Job, was counted with the sons of God and visited with God, speaks with God regularly, and also has access to the earth by God's own apparent permission. But the word Satan in Hebrew means adversary. Adversary. And here's where people get that part wrong too. Like the old comedian Flip Wilson, "Devil made me do it." Echoing every 5-year-old out there. I don't know why I broke them. It wasn't me. I must have had just bad thoughts, No. Devil made me do it. No. Satan isn't God's adversary, as some want to make out. That the whole drama of Jesus coming here and the devil taking possession of Judas and turning him over to the Romans, blah, blah, blah. No, that is the story, yes, but that's not who and what Satan is and does. Satan isn't God's adversary. God has no adversaries. How can he have an adversary? Think it through. That's why when you hear people talk about this, it's like yin and yang. There's a good and the bad, and they war against each other. Blah, blah, blah. No, that makes great TV for HBO or Cinemax or Showtime or whatever or Netflix, but it's not the drama. God has no drama. God says, I'm alone. There's none that is like me, none. And so all else that is beside him is something that he made. And I don't know, if you're working on an old 65 Chevy and you put the wrong carburetor in there, you'll find out right quick that it's probably going to blow up and start on fire. And you think, oh, I made this. How can it treat me like this? Well, first off, you shouldn't be playing with 65 Chevys. It's not a Ford. But the thing of it is, God did make him to be his adversary. He's the one who gave the title Satan. He made him to be our adversary, not his. Heaven has no drama. How could it? If God is God, how can it be drama? So what's going on? Who is this guy? Well, there's an old joke. So Satan comes into a church and waves his arms in the air and makes growling sounds, and everybody runs into the walls and runs into each other, and finally runs out the door and jumps out the windows. But there's this one old guy just sitting there. And finally, Satan walks over and sits down next to him and says, I'm getting tired of this. Why aren't you freaking out? And I've done everything I can to, scare everyone. And he goes, you can't scare me. I'm Satan. Of course I can scare you. Nah, I'm married to your sister. So we call Satan a he, but doesn't work with gender. It's not a he or she. The old guy got it. Well, he might have thought he was getting it right, but he didn't. So Satan is our adversary, but within limits. God doesn't just turn him loose to completely destroy us. We learned that from the book of Job. Satan went and talked to God. In fact, it was God that brought up Job, not Satan. He said, hey, have you seen my servant Job? And Satan's like, yeah, whatever. Pfft, fine. You got a goody down there, goody two shoes, so what? What do you want? Donut? And God says, tell you what, let's have a contest, you and me. If you try to steer him off. Satan's like, oh, this will be fun. Sure, how far can I go? Blah, blah, blah. And then it goes all to the point where Satan is given permission to kill his kids, his family, destroy his crops, destroy his animals, destroy his workplace, destroy everything. Finally, Job is down to ashes. And his wife says, Job, you're an idiot. You're just a stone cold idiot for trusting God. Obviously, he hates you. Why else would he bring all this misfortune on you? You're a clod. And Job says, maybe. And his friends show up. They say the same basic things. And Job is just sinking down depression. Finally, God shows up and says, hey, we got to talk. Where were you when I made the heavens and the earth? Where were you when I made the Pleiades? And I designed little lights in the sky for you. From our little corner of the universe, the bear and its cubs, or the hunter, November, or the Pleiades, or the sisters, they look like that as the Greeks would stare up in the sky, or the Phoenicians, or the Babylonians, and make pictures of the night sky with stars. From this place, the Pleiades, if we were off in a different quadrant of the universe, would definitely not look like the Pleiades. Or the bear and cubs. That's only from here. And God said, I made these pretty pictures of the heavens for you. Aren't they pretty? You know? And Job was finally like, oh, okay, I get it. Okay, yeah, I'm not God, you are, I'm an idiot. Fine. And so Job is not unique in his encounter with both God and Satan. Because we see here with Jesus in this text that he was led up by God, not Satan. It begins the text with, then Jesus was led up by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. God took his son and brought him to a wilderness place with an area outside. It's that whole area is still a wilderness, it's desert, snakes, bugs, but that's where Jesus was tempted. Although, in truth, the word peripazo in Greek to tempt isn't what you might imagine. It wasn't Jesus was like pulling out his hair. Oh, this is terrible. Oh, I'm so hungry. Well, yeah, according to his flesh, he was hungry. I mean, if I go 4 hours without food, yeah, I'm starting to feel it. If I go 40 hours, oh, forget it, man. I'm going to eat what comes along next. I don't care what it is, Oh, is that your bubble gum? I'll eat that. Is that your coffee? I'm drinking it. 40 days? Nah. No. And it wouldn't have been a strict fast either, because 40 days for a human being is not really survivable. You'd be down to digesting your tissue and bones. The Jewish word for fasting means water and light food. No steaks, no donuts, but light food, survivable food. But the Father sent his Son down to this time to go through what we normally go through, because he's both true God and true man. He threw his lot in with ours. And part of our lot is that the Father throws a tester against us, an adversary against us, to do whatever he's permitted to do. The Lord's Prayer is, lead us not into temptation. Actually, it says, lead us not into testing. In other words, if you're going to give Satan, leeway with me today, keep it to a minimum. Do you really have to give permission to, whatever? That's what the Lord's Prayer means there, by the way. That's what Jesus is saying. Dad's got quite a sense of humor, so be careful. Because you never know what the old man's thinking. Could be anything. And, look at Jesus. You think he was thrilled? Oh, we're going to the cross? Yeah. I know you got plan B in your pocket somewhere. We're not going through with this. I know, because, I'm your son. You're not going to do what? No? I'm really going to go to the cross? Oh. Well, thanks, Dad. He wasn't happy about it. In fact, he says, if there's any other way. On the other end, it's nothing but crickets, But, so this idea of having an adversary, he's still doing the same job. Attacking from kings on down, leaders on down. And you think in this world there are things so stupid. For instance, we have used vaccines since the days of Napoleon. Napoleon got together with an English doctor, and his troops and everyone's troops were being ravaged by disease. And you can't wage a war if your troops are all flat on their backs, spitting up blood. You can't do it. And that was Napoleon's and the British problem and everyone else's problem. The French and everyone had the same problem. So Napoleon got together with a British doctor and they came up with a vaccine. Yay! We've been vaccinated since. It works. It's always worked. Why? Well, just because it's science. It's something real. Like water at sea level boils at X temperature. Water at sea level always boil at X temperature. It's science. It's not an opinion. There's a comedian who said, if everything in the world was destroyed and all books were burned and there was nothing left, we would still invent science books. Because, why? It's not an opinion, it's not a cult, it's not a religion, it's just a description of the physical world around us. And so this is when Satan comes into the world and he's tugging at our lapels and trying to convince people like David. David was a reasonable man, King David. He believed in God. I mean, as a youth, he went up against Goliath. I mean, not Goliath. Yeah, David Goliath, yeah. This Philistine. And he had a big sense of humor as well as he was huge. And David said, yeah, not a problem. I've gone against, animals protecting my sheep. I could take them down. No problem. Right ahead. You're done. You've got a rock in your forehead inside. It's always going to end badly. So he falls over dead. David grabs his sword, drags it over to where his body is, and saws off his head. I win. Showing David has a sense of humor too. But this is the same guy who trusted God enough to go up against this giant idiot that says to him, yeah, count God's people. And God had just told him not to. In other words, idiocy in whatever form, like vaccines. And now we have actual leaders in political places who are in charge of some areas of medicine, God only knows what, who actually say, oh yeah, well, was it measles that's ravaging children? Some have died now. Which is a disease that we thought was eradicated decades ago. It's not. It's back. It's spreading through Texas. It's killed a bunch. It's hospitalized a bunch. It's killed a few. It'll kill more. And the thing about measles is when you get better, you don't. It rewrites your immune system. So everything you had developed immunity to, you are now a fresh target. You are raw meat. And you are going to get so sick from everything else because your immune system has to start from zero. So if you live through it, that's not the end of the war. Good luck. Measles is treacherous, we now know. And we've got some idiots who go, hey, take vitamin D. I'm sorry, we have a vaccine for that. We can eradicate. We can make sure your children don't die from this or at least have to be hospitalized. Drink more milk. It's got vitamin D in it. I think, wow, someone who is supposed to know science is so stupid. And that's what we have. It was the same in COVID. Try this horse medicine. The doctor's like, why are you asking me to prescribe you horse medicine? I saw on the internet, there's this real smart guy. He said, take horse medicine. Is he a doctor? Oh, no. What does he do for a living? Oh, he's unemployed. He lives in his mom's basement. What degree does he have? Oh, yeah, he didn't graduate from high school. He's a dropout drug addict. And you're going to listen to this fool. Because he say so. We were at that point. I'm not making this up. We were there for 4 years. We even had a leader who was the same. I don't know, can you drink bleach? No, you can't drink bleach. It's poison. It says so on the bottle. Don't ingest. Don't even get in your eyes. It's poison. So they ended up in ERs. What happened to you? I drank bleach. You got COVID too? Oh, now you've been poisoned and you have COVID. Well done, you. See, we have a level of stupid that is influenced by people who should be allowed to walk a dog. And how could that possibly be? Well, David wasn't that stupid either, but he acted that stupidly. And I guess a lot of these people who are doing this today aren't actually that stupid. And you would think, well, are they just cruel, maniacal, hateful? No. It's quite likely that Satan has his claws in them too. And all of their training, all their education, everything that they've lived through is thrown out the window, and they're like, yeah, I'm not going to get my vaccine for my children. So they go to school and get polio. By the way, polio popping up now too. Why? Because parents say, well, we're religious. We don't want the kids vaccinated. Oh, yeah. They're going to get a sore arm, and they're going to be maybe feverish for a day or two. Yeah. That's a good reason not to keep them from getting polio. When I was in Minnesota as a vicar, there was a woman there from Chicago who had been an editor in a food magazine. Very smart woman. And she was in an iron lung in this little place called Tracy, Minnesota. It's kind of the armpit of the world. 400 people, and not one of them wanted to live there. There was no crime rate, but they had one cop, Jeff. He had a little room. I mean, room. There was an outhouse behind it, no plumbing. And there was a bench bolted to the floor and a pair of handcuffs hanging from the bench. That was Jeff's jail. Highway 14 runs right through Tracy, Minnesota. Yeah. And people, they get there, and you think, well, in a little place like this, common sense would reign, wouldn't it? And no, not even in little places like this where common sense should make sense. Now we're at the point where people are trying to rewrite history. People have given up on common sense. And I don't think they're malicious. I don't think they're intrinsically evil, because these are our neighbors. It's almost nearly half the American population. All I could think of is Satan working overtime here? You know, when I grew up, none of this existed. No one questioned vaccines. Why? Well, because no one was that stupid. Children died back then. I mean, they actually died. So they got vaccines. And it was a common sense world, like little place out in Minnesota. But Satan has his claws pretty deeply. And so we go back to the question of, who is he? What does he do? That's who he is. That's what he does. He takes people who are generally common sense folk, who might be from a little place in Minnesota or Chicago or Buffalo, and he makes them behave. Well, take that back. He tempts them to behave. Our behavior is our fault, one way or the other. Why did you beat your wife? I don't know. I was drunk. Why'd you get drunk that way? I don't know. Yeah, but you sing in the church choir and you... What happened to you? I don't know. Satan just takes over sometimes. And he's our adversary, but not God's. And so this is why Jesus came. This is why the Father sent him into the wilderness and put Satan against him, because we are constantly being put on by him, by our Father, by God. Why? Why did God make him? And to cause such misery in the world? The United States is a miserable country. Ask any Canadian. Anywhere in the country of Canada. They used to really like us. We used to go up to cottages there and drink beer with them and eat sandwiches. Those little sandwiches. They don't make American sandwiches. They make little ones with the crust cut off, and it's very dainty, and there's like 4 potato chips on the plate. I don't know how they stay alive like that, but, you know, we have to have a food bar that you could feed cows from. But, and it was great. Now they don't want to see us, because the common American is behaving so badly. And so, in times like this, again, Hitler was a situation where a great number of people, I mean, you see the videos, the old-time black and white movies of people lying in the streets, flashing their arm up in the air, Sieg Heil, Heilgetum, salvation, Sieg from blessed in German. Blessed Savior, they were calling him. German, Sieg Heil. It's a madness. What's the cure? Well, God doesn't want us to give way to that madness. Once Hitler laid in a ditch covered with petrol with a bullet in his head and his new wife, the German people were forced to march past the death camps and say, open your bloody eyes. This is what you have caused in your madness. You were part of this. You voted for this trash. You caused this to happen in the world. And they just were like silent because they could not comprehend. Looking at their bombed cities, Dresden, which was melted, but it was worse than a nuke. What was left there that had been either cat, dog, human, plant, or animal was melted. Bigger mess than Hiroshima. Dresden, look it up. It's a story all by itself. The British bombed them all night. We bombed them all day for 2 weeks. It was literally a tornado of fire. Madness. And God sits there saying, really? So I sent you the adversary and you collapsed? This is not a good chapter. This is not ending well. Didn't end well for the Germans or the Japanese. And afterwards, they were like, what were we thinking? I went over and visited relatives after World War II, and I could not believe what I was looking at. I said, what did he do? He's a high school principal. Oh, he was a Panzer commander. What's a Panzer? A tank. A what? I was 7 years old. I didn't know what that meant. He involved in slaughter. So, God sent his son to go through this and to laugh it off and tell the devil, get the hell out of here. Because we are not in a contest. You are not my adversary. You are theirs. And so God sent his son to show, simply, that it's not a contest, not a drama between him and Satan at all. God has no drama. God has no adversary. But we ask God, like in the Lord's Prayer, keep us sane. Don't let us embark on the madness that Satan promotes. Because if you really want to know what's satanic, it's not drawing little stars, upside down stars, or an upside down cross. That's not satanic. That's just nonsense. What's satanic is madness among adults that leads to death. That is satanic. And Jesus came so that does not reign here or anywhere. He died on the cross for our madness, our failure, what we are, the wretchedness of human. And he rose again, victor over it all. The end will finally come someday, and all the madness will end, and all those who promoted it will be held to final account, and they will stand naked before God and all humankind. And then God will say to them, get the hell out. And they'll be carted off by angels to their destruction. That's how this ends. But for those who look to God to free us and save us from the madness, it ends differently. We go home. It's nice. It's happy. It's fun. Forever. Because of what God has done for us all. So if there's a message for the world of madness that we live in now, again, it's God does not like it. God does not appreciate it when you promote madness in his name. I especially am offended when Christians, self-professed Christians, that is, say, oh, look, we should partake in the madness. Just like when they did with Hitler. That's madness. That's evil. God doesn't appreciate it. I find it personally massively offensive. In the end, he will sort it all out. In Jesus' name, amen.